Welcome to a reflection for the second Wednesday in Advent. Our Advent series is drawn from Face to the Rising Sun by the Reverend Mark Pizzuti Jones. His work relates the lyrics from a traditional spiritual and a passage of scripture with a reflection by the author and some brief insights from our church as well. We want to thank the Forward Movement and the author, the Reverend Mark Pizzuti Jones, for their kind permission to use this work. Babylon, you gone down. Babylon, you gone down. Babylon, you gone. Babylon, you gone. And your throne gone down. Oppressor man, you gone. Oppressor man, you gone. Oppressor man, you gone. And your throne gone down.
A reading from Micah. With what shall I come before the Lord and bow myself before God on high? Shall I come before him with burnt offerings, with calves a year old? Will the Lord be pleased with thousands of rams, with tens of thousands of rivers of oil? Shall I give my firstborn for my transgression, the fruit of my body for the sin of my soul? He has told you, O mortal, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you, but to do justice, and to love kindness, and to walk humbly with your God? The word of the Lord. This spiritual is widely known in Jamaica, but less so in the United States of America. In this case, the term Babylon describes societal and structural sin and is used synonymously to describe structures of oppression and racism. African Americans have long lamented their experience of feeling that the laws and structures of society are never in their favor. Since the time of slavery up to the present moment, African Americans have devoted themselves to naming and pointing out the injustices in the culture and the judicial systems that work against them. The Black Lives Matter movement is focused on naming the structural and systemic racism in the history of America. The Black Lives Matter movement is committed to overthrowing the systems that perpetuate suffering and killing today. Babylon, You Gone Down celebrates the reality that Babylon has fallen. In truth, we all know deep down that evil will never triumph, in the same way that death never has the last word. Babylon is forever going down, even though it makes its evil and suffering felt along the way. To understand more fully the world of the spirituals, one needs to study the horrors of the organized slave trade. When Europeans organized in a unified effort to capture and dominate the peoples from Africa. They developed a culture and a structure that institutionalized the treatment of Africans like animals. The structural racism had as its goal the dehumanization of African slaves. To sing, fight, and protest for justice is to hold at the very same time a profound belief that things will change for the better. Of course, Babylon and all institutions of power do not release their hold on the status quo easily. Still, knowing that love will always defeat hate is a great faith to exercise. There's also no denying that the life of Jesus shows him explicitly condemning the oppressive structures of his day. Jesus also taught his followers to act against the systems of oppression, as he taught them that he came to bring life and freedom to all. The second verse in the spiritual addresses the masters of the slaves most directly. Oppressor man, you gone, and your throne gone down. Again, the power and wisdom of those who sang the spirituals is in the recognition that structural oppression is always expressed through individuals. Their vision of a time after oppression was as certain. We are all called to remember that sin has faces and systemic racism has people devoted to maintaining the status quo. Reminiscent of Jesus saying that he saw Satan fall from heaven, this spiritual affirms that with each passing day, no matter how bleak the reality may look, racism cannot prevail. The ugliness, the killings, and the death caused by racism have gone down and will continue to fall until things are made right. Yes, we are a people who believe that God has redeemed the world. To believe this, we have to live into the call and challenge of dismantling the system of Babylon.
What does the Lord require of you? Do justice, love kindness, walk humbly with your God. In this reflection, Mark Bizzuti Jones speaks about structural and systemic racism. I encounter people that do not believe in structural or systemic racism. The phrase they use relating to acts of racism is a few bad apples. Everything bad is the result of the actions of a few bad apples. The Episcopal Church believes that structural and systemic racism exists. We acknowledge that we have benefited from past acts of oppression, from injustices, from slavery. We have seminaries and churches that were built by slave labor, that were built by profits from the slave trade. This is not a Southern thing. Northern bankers and shipbuilders profited right along with the slave owners. Those institutions that the slaves built, those fortunes they contributed to. still exist. How do we do justice here? Virginia Theological Seminary, the church's largest seminary, is one of those institutions. In September 2019, the school announced the creation of an endowment dedicated to the payment of reparations and the intent to research, uncover, and recognize Black people who labored on campus during slavery, Reconstruction, and segregation under Jim Crow laws. The endowment is part of the seminary's commitment to recognize its participation in oppression in the past and its commitment to healing and making amends in the future. Additional funds have been allocated to support the work of Black congregations that have historical ties to the seminary to create programs that promote justice and inclusion, and to elevate the work and voices of Black alumni and clergy within the Episcopal Church. Now, does $1.7 million right the wrongs of 400 years of slavery and oppression? No, but it is one step on a path. The first is recognizing and admitting that an injustice has been done, that our paths are a mixture of sin and grace, repenting of those past wrongs, and doing what we can to redress those past actions and the consequences of those past actions that still reverberate in our country today. It's a start. It's like planting one of those little mustard seeds that Jesus talks about that grow into giant shrubs. And until justice rolls like water and righteousness like a mighty stream, it's our job to water that shrub. Well, that concludes our reflections for today. And again, I want to say that thanks to the Forward Movement, they've been providing spiritual help and reinvigorating the life of the church since 1934. Our thanks to the Reverend Mark Bizzuti Jones for writing this book, to the Forward Movement for publishing it, and for their kind permission to use parts of it. Our Facebook pages will have links to material about the Forward Movement, this book, about Mark Bizzuti Jones, and the music that goes along with some of these lyrics. And we encourage you to visit the Forward Movement. We have a link to their website right here. And we also wish to thank Vanderbilt University. Many of the images we used are from the Jean and Alexander Hurd Libraries at Vanderbilt University. They have a wonderful collection, Art in the Christian Tradition, that we use frequently for our online productions, and we thank them for their work. Have a blessed Advent week.